Hey there, my name is Kelly Dell with Off the Beaded Path beadstore.com. Thanks so much for joining me today as we are winding down our 12 Days of Christmas promotion 2024. And for today, I have a special video release for you. This is a project that I did back at my 2022 bead retreats. And it is a scissors case. Now, this scissors case is made using peyote and brick stitch. So for those of you who did the holly candle earrings back on day 1 of our promotion, it's the same thing on just a larger scale. It's a fun project to do. The great thing about it is it can be double-sided. And the way that you are going to make this is you're going to head on over to offthebeadedpathbeadstore.com and you're going to grab the 4 free graphs that will help lead you in this project. There are 4 patterns that you can go in and get. Now, when I say patterns, don't be misled that it is a step-by-step, word-for-word pattern, because it's not. This is a graph that you will follow, and in the following video, which I made for this project back in 2022, I'm going to teach you step-by-step how to read that graph, how to do this project, how to zip the 2 pieces up so that a pair of bead-along scissors will fit in there perfectly. Anything that's going to be about that size as the bead-along scissors will fit in this case. The biggest thing that you need to know about this project, tension is going to either be your friend or your foe. You don't want the tension on this project to be super, super, super tight. If it is very, very tight, you are going to have a hard time getting your scissors down into the bottom of the case. So you want to use a little bit of a looser tension on this. Oh, and when I say loose, you guys, let's not see thread, that kind of thing. Just don't do this while you're mad at somebody where you're going to pull that thread super tight, okay? And I know for us beaders who are very tight beaders, it's hard. It's going to be a little harder. Just let's not pull as hard on this project, okay? So please remember, if I talk about kits or I talk about retreat, it's because, again, this was done in 2022. So, again, head on over to offthebeadedpathbeadstore.com, grab your 4 free graphs to go by. And I do have color suggestions on there, but of course, you can do whatever colors that you would like. And grab needle and thread, and let's get started. So, I have the printout of the piece that I want to do in the video today. It's going to be similar to what I have here, so you can kind of see the blown up version of what we're going to make. Now, for this step, you're going to need either a Sharpie marker or a pen, and you're going to need a ruler, because I'm going to show you the easiest way to do this pattern. If you wanted to, you could definitely brick stitch the entire piece, but it's going to be much easier to work a strip down the middle of odd count peyote stitch and then brick our 2 sides as we go. So here's how we do this. Take your ruler, and you see our black line here at the bottom, this row here that we have. I'm going to lay my ruler down and line up that row of beads. All right, so all the way up to the top, that row of beads is what I have lined up. And actually, I think I'm going to do this with a pen first before I do with the marker. So I'm going to use a pen, and I'm going to follow the ruler down to make a straight line just like that. And I can see that good enough, so I think I'm just going to leave that and not even worry with the marker. All right, then I'm going to flip my ruler over. And again, I'm going to follow this black line here, this row. I'm going to line this row up all the way to the top, and I'm going to take my pen and line it up just like that. So that now this strip here, this is going to be my odd count. Okay, and then this side and this side are going to be my brick stitch. Okay, now the second thing that you need to know once you have your lines drawn and you know what our odd count's going to be and what our brick is going to be, you need to know exactly where to start. So I'm going to zoom in just a little bit here. There we go. Okay, because it's an odd count peyote stitch, we're going to actually start it not here at the bottom, but we're going to start it here. All right, and I'm going to kind of tilt this to the side just because it's going to be easier for me to draw. But we are going to start with this first box here, and then we're going to follow in a zigzag just like this. So I'm going to put a little dot here so you'll know. So I'm going to be doing that bead, this bead, here, 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 and here. So if I make a little line like that, you can see that these beads here, this is going to be the first row that I do. So I'm going to thread on according to my pattern. I would thread on for row 1 a black, a cream, a blue, a black, a blue, a cream, and a black. All right, so that would kind of give you an idea of your first row. Now these beads here, what we're going to do is we're going to leave ourselves a long enough tail thread that we can go back and we can add these beads here in just a little while. But for now, these will be the row that we start with. So on your kit, you got several colors to choose from. Your pattern itself is made by a specific color scheme, but you can choose to do different colors. Feel free to. So that's what I'm going to. So I'm going to show you the colors that I'm going to be doing for this design, and then we'll go from there. All right, so for my color scheme for this specific scissors case, I chose the gem tone colors. These were all kind of the darker gem colors, and you can see I've already completed one side of my scissors case using some other colors that were in my kit. So these here are going to actually be some other colors from that kit. So I've made myself some little notes here so I'll know which colors I'm using for which. So in my pattern where I see the black, that's going to be where I'm using the 022L. For the tan color, here, this yellowy tan, I'm going to be using pink, which is 418. And then for everywhere else where I see the blue, I'm going to be using number 264. So those are the colors I will actually use today to get my piece started. I'm also going to use some of my tan .006 Wildfire, or my beige, whichever one you want to call it. And it's imperative that you use a size 12 needle for this. So if you have a trouble threading on a size 12 needle, make sure to take your flat nose pliers and flatten out the very end of your piece first. And then take your needle and slide the beads down, or not the beads, but slide the needle down to where it will get threaded, and then you can then simply just pull the thread to the length that you need it. And again, I'm starting out with 2 yards of thread. So remember, I told you that we are going to start off and we are going to thread on black, tan, blue, black, blue, tan, black. So I'm going to thread on black, tan, blue, black, blue, tan, and black. So if I look at my colors right now and I don't like them, this is the time to change. All right, so if you do not like your colors, this is definitely your time to change. And I think I'm going to be happy with this, so I'm just going to leave it be. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this down, so now I can start showing you the different ways to do odd count peyote stitch for this project. So the first one I'm going to show you is how you do not want to do this project. All right, again, I repeat, do not want to do. So I did the first row. So now the second row is actually going to be black, blue, blue, black. All right, and I know this because I have black and a line, blue and a line, black and a line, blue and a line, black. So I know that these 4 beads are my next row. So I'm going to thread on, and if you want to, you can lay it out. I'm going to thread on black. But let me hold my thread there. Blue, blue, and black. All right, so that is going to be my row. So I'm going to not put a stop bead or anything like that. I'm just going to hold my beads into place, and I'm going to thread on my beads just like I normally would. So black, and make it sit right if it's not sitting right. Blue, blue, and you'll notice that once I get this last blue put on here, I only have 1 bead left, so I don't have that extra spot to put a bead. So I thread on my black bead, drop it down, and then I tie these 2 threads together. And you want to be careful when you tie them together that you don't get the knot caught up into where that thread's at. So I'm going to do 1 more little knot here. And then go through the black bead here. And remember, I'm using alternate colors, so this is why I have my colors laid out. So my next row here is going to be tan, black, and tan. And don't worry, when we actually get started on this, I'm going to show you how I mark these off. But since I'm just teaching about how not to do this, I want to just kind of follow what I've got there. So tan, black, tan. So I just did tan, black, tan. Now I'm going to thread on black, tan, tan, black. So this first couple of rows are really, really easy to kind of understand how they're going to go. So I've got, let's see, black, tan. Nope, that's not right. Blue, 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 blue. Black, blue, blue, black. Blue. All right, so what I'm going to show you right now is the method you do not want to do. All right, so when I pick up this black bead here, if I go under the thread between the last 2 beads and I pull this through all the way and then come back through the bead you just added. Okay, now that's a super easy turnaround, but the issue that you're going to have with this turnaround for the odd count peyote is it's going to add layers of thread here on this one side of your strip that you're going to do, and those layers of thread will be seen between this row and your first brick stitch row, whereas they will not be seen on this side. So there's really no good results that's going to come from doing the odd count peyote in this way. So now I'm going to show you the way that you can do it before we get into how I prefer you to do it. Now, as I was working this first little strip here, I didn't like how that kind of galvanized rose gold was not showing up. So I am switching out this middle color to number 253. So it's a great thing about it. If you start the strip and you don't like how it looks, just go ahead and switch out your colors at that point. No biggie. All right, so again, I'm going to start with the black, tan, blue, black, blue, tan, tan, and black. And I think I'm going to like that much, much better. My colors are going to show up a lot better. So I'm going to bring this down. And if I do this version, I'm going to start out with 3 yards of thread, because 2 yards will be used to do the stitch, or 2.5 yards. I would do 2.5. And then I'm going to leave about an 18-inch tail so that I can do the tail wrap method and have this actually travel up with me. So I will just kind of hold the beads in place here, pick up a black and go through the tan. And get it situated. Okay. Pick up a blue and go through the black. Blue, go through the black. And then my last bead there on the end, my black bead, I pick it up. I take my needle and I go under the tail thread. Now, once I go under it, I'm going to pull it back tight. So right now I've loosened it up, and then I'm going to pull it back tight, because as I do that, I want this tail thread to stay on this side, stay here, my working thread here, and my bead needs to stay on this side here. My bead does not need to go under this tail thread. And now I just come back through that bead and pull it tight. And it will straighten up as I come down to do the next row. So this one is my favorite technique, honestly, on how to do odd count peyote stitch. But in the grand scheme of things, it may leave a little bit of thread here as well. Nowhere near as much as the previous way, but I'm going to continue, and when I get back to the other side, I'm going to show you that third option. The best way, that best practices is how they say it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to mark off the beads that I've got done. So this was my first row. All right, now the row that I just completed was black, blue, blue, black. All right, so now the next row is going to be tan, black, tan. So this row is just a regular peyote, so I do tan, black, tan, okay, and then the next row, so I can go ahead and mark off, I just did tan, black, tan. Okay, now my next row is a 4 bead row. All right, so that's black, blue, blue, black. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So, and I'm just going to kind of keep that tail pulled out of my way for now. So black, blue, blue. Now, once I thread on this blue, I'm going to go through my last 2 beads. All right, we're going to do a figure 8 here. So now I thread on my black and I go at a diagonal through this bead and this bead. So I'm going at a diagonal. So I'm coming out here and I go through 1. Oh, you can get it in 2. There we go. 1 and 2. So you can see the beads that I've gone through here. And I'm going to pull this through. Now I'm going to take and I'm going to turn around. So I'm coming out here at this bead. So I'm going to come back up through 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to go at a diagonal and go through those beads. So 1, 2, 3, just like that. Pull this through so that now when I finish, I'll come through this bead and then I'm ready to start working again, ready for my next row. Don't worry, I'm going to show it to you again. Don't freak out on me. So I just completed black, blue, blue, black. So my next row here is going to be tan, black, tan. So tan, black, tan. So if we mark that off, so what you can do is you can either do like I've done and just print this out so you can mark on it, or you can laminate this sheet and use a dry erase marker and reuse this over and over. So my next row is black, blue, blue, black. So black, blue, blue. Now remember what I said about the blue. When I thread this one on, this is where I go through 2 beads. I pull it through. So my bead that should go here was that black bead. So I take that bead and I pick it up, and then I come through these 2 beads here at a diagonal. Okay, so see, now my bead's there, but I need to be coming out of that bead. So I'm going to go back through these 3 beads at a diagonal. And then through that bead that I just added. Just like that. So I can mark that row off. I've just completed it. Okay, so now my next row here is tan, black, tan. So tan, black, tan. I can mark that. Tan, black, tan. So my next row here is black, blue, blue, black. So black, blue, blue, black. So I'm going to do this row and show you that turnaround one more time, and I'm going to let you go free here. So black, blue, blue, and now remember, when I add this bead here, I go through 2 at that diagonal, and then I pick up a black, and then I make almost a triangle. So I come through these 2 beads here at a diagonal, pull this through so that it puts that last bead in place for my row. And then I'm going to come through these 3 beads here, just like this, and then through that single bead here. And now I'm going to continue doing what I just did here all the way up between my lines until I get up to here. And then I'm going to show you how to do this decrease to make our point. So as you work your rows up, if your tail thread starts to get in your way, then you can go ahead and do this little decrease here at the bottom. Now the decrease is really nice because all it uses is our black beads here. So because I started out a little bit differently, I need to come out of that bead. So now I'm going to pick up my black beads all the way across. So 1, 2, 3. Now remember, I'm doing a decrease, so if I go ahead and I mark off 1, 2, 3, then you'll see here I need to add a row of 2. So I need to be coming out of this bead here to be able to work that row. So from where my thread is coming out, I need to do a turnaround here. So I need to, and it's one of those things, it really doesn't matter how you do it as long as you come out there. So I'm going to come through the row below and then kind of like at a diagonal, just like this. Okay. And then I'm going to come through this bead and this bead at a diagonal. So 1 and 2. And then through these 2 beads so that I'm coming out of that 1 bead. Now I'll go ahead and do another row of 1, 2. And now I only have 1 bead left here to add. So you can either stitch around or you can do a turnaround again. And I think I might do the turnaround. Again, it doesn't matter how you get there as long as you don't see the thread on the outside of the bead. So I just went through those beads and now I'll pick up 1 and finish out this bottom so that now the decrease is complete here on the bottom and I can get rid of my tail thread. So when you get rid of that tail thread, try to stitch through these center beads as much as you can rather than out here on the outside of your beadwork. And you're going to get rid of this thread and cut it off and continue your strip. So once you get your strip up to the top, we still have about 3 rows left to give us the point, just like we do here at the bottom. So I'm coming out just like I normally would after I have done that little odd count turn. So just using this, color that I'm using here for the points, I pick up my beads and I'm going to work across, putting in that 1 color across the row. And once I've gone all the way across, I need to be coming out of this bead right here to be able to start the next row. So I will do a little bit of a turnaround. And remember, don't stress out. It's one of those things. It doesn't matter how you get there as long as you don't see the thread across the bead or anything like that. So I come out of that bead and now I'm going to put in 2 beads of that same color, and then I need 1 more bead here, so I'm just going to stitch around And again, we go back to that, hey, it doesn't matter how you get there as long as you get there things. There we go. So now I'm coming out of that 1 bead so that now I can put in my little point. So I'm going to put that in and I'm going to go straight across. so that now I have my center strip completed for my piece. So let me go ahead and mark these off on my chart. So 1, 2, 3, get all those off. Okay, now you'll notice here that according to where my thread is coming out, my thread is coming out of this bead here. So this means I need to work this side first in the brick stitch. So what's a little bit easier for me is I'll go ahead and I kind of fold this in half like that. So it's a little bit easier to work with, and if you want to, you can either even fold it in half like this. So it's a little bit easier to flip and work with as you need to. So you'll notice here, we have put in our top point and we have 4 rows down. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So now we're going to start on this 5th row, which is there on the line. And you'll notice that all these beads are going in instead of going out like these. So this means we have to work what's called decreases, brick stitch decreases. And when we add the row, we are only going to be adding this single row here all the way down. We're not going to be working these other rows yet. We work these one at a time as we go across. So you're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 rows of a decrease. And then we're going to do an increase. So we'll talk about both of those as we go through. So the first thing that we're actually going to get started on is we're going to pick up these first 2 beads. When you do a decrease, we pick up 2 beads. So my first 2 beads I'm going to pick up are the black and the blue here. So let me go ahead and get my piece in place. Make sure your thread is coming out in that right, correct spot. And if you turn your piece up to the side, you'll notice that you have what we call thread bridges. So it's threads in between each of your beads that you have here along this edge. That's what we're going to be working on today. So I'm going to pick up the 2 beads that I need. Here is the bead my thread is currently exiting. So I'm going to skip 1 thread bridge because this is a decrease. Skip 1 and then go under 1. And if you have pulled your thread really tightly as you work that outer edge, it may be kind of tight to get in there. So just kind of beware of that. So now I'm going to go back up through the bead right above where the thread is coming out, which is going to be that blue bead. And you'll notice that those 2 beads don't sit straight. They sit wonky. So we have to make these sit the way they need to. So I'm going to go down through this bead and up through this bead, and I'm going to pull that thread straight up, and you see now how that made those sit side by side. So I put on these 2. So now I'm just going to pick up 1 bead at a time. So I've got basically 1, 2, 3 more blues. So I'm just going to grab 3 blues and kind of set them here to the side. I pick up 1 bead. Now we don't have to worry about skipping anything. We just pick up a bead, go under that next thread bridge there. Hopefully, if this side may be the only side that you actually might have to pull the thread with a pair of pliers or something like that. Every row after this should be a lot easier to deal with. And honestly, if you don't pull your thread super tight like I do, if you're not a super tight beater, you don't even have to do that. It's just, I stitch very tightly. So then, as you can see, all I'm doing is I'm picking up a bead. I'm going under that thread bridge there. And then I'm going up through the bead that I just added. So you can see how that is starting to work there. So you can kind of see I've done 1, So I'm just going to continue to work down this whole row all the way down until I put on this last black bead for this row. So as you work this first row of brick stitch, you are definitely going to run out of thread if you haven't already. So when you run out of thread, simply get rid of your thread just like we did in the beginning when we went back and did that last part at the bottom. We did our decrease. Get rid of your thread and just add your new thread as you normally would. Now again, I never advise doing knots with brick stitch because anywhere you put a knot, you're gonna see it. So just make sure to stitch through your beads several times with your tail thread, working thread, all of that good stuff, so that you can get rid of your thread when you need to, or add new thread without having any of those knots, but knowing that your thread will be secure because you are gonna go through these beads several times. So you're going to continue to just add that thread and then continue on with your project. So I've completed my row and I've got all the way down here, and you can see that this row does not go all the way down, so you just stop where you're supposed to. Now you'll notice here that my next row doesn't start till way up here. So we're still going to work this as a decrease row, just like we started this row. So to work the decrease row, I need to be coming out of this third black bead here from where I'm coming out at. So all I need to do, let me zoom in here. My thread is currently coming out of the last bead that I added. So I need to come down through the second bead, and then up through the bead right here so that I'm in position to start this next row. And then I'm gonna work a decrease just like I did when I started the row up here. What is that? Oh, I added thread there. I'm sorry. So my bead that I'm gonna add, my next two beads, remember to do the decrease, we have to pick up two beads. I skip a bead or I skip a thread bridge and I go under the next thread bridge, which is gonna skip and go under here, just like this. And then we pull it through and get it caught on everything. And you see they don't lay right, so we have to go up through the bead right above where the thread's coming out, down through the first bead, and I'm just kind of keeping my finger in there so that it doesn't, or holding it so that it doesn't go wonky on me. And then I go up through that bead one more time, and when I come through this bead, I pull the thread straight up the way it's coming out of the bead. And then I'm ready to continue now, putting one bead on at a time and going under the next thread bridge until I get all the way to the end of this row. Just like that. Now, let me get my pattern back out here for you. So when I come to the next row, I'm just going to continue working that decrease all the way until I get to this row here. And each time, just remember, when you come to the end of the row and you're ready to start, pay attention to where you need to start your next row at. So for this row here, I need to be coming out of the bead, this first bead that's right under it. You can see here, same thing here. I would need to be coming out here, here. So it's really, this is really just basic brick stitch. All you need to do is just pay attention, pay very, very close attention. Because if you get this wrong on this side and then right on the second side, they are not going to zip up correctly together. So it's very imperative that you get this correct. So I'm going to continue to do my decreases until I get to here and I finish this row, and then I'm going to show you how to work these increases going up this way. So once you get your rows done up until this point, we've been doing the decrease. So now we're going to work our increase until we finish off this row, and then you guessed it, it's a decrease again. So to start our increase, we're going to add 2 beads just like we did in the decrease, but instead of skipping a thread bridge and going under the second thread bridge, we are going to be going under the first thread bridge. So let me get my sample here so you can see. So I'll pick up my 2 beads, and then here, instead of going under the first, or instead of skipping and then going under that second thread bridge, we're going to go under the first thread bridge here. And then the great thing about the increase is there's no making it look pretty. It should automatically sit nice for you. And then I go right up through the bead, right above where my thread's coming out. So that now you can see that that sets this bead up in an upward motion. And now we're ready to continue on the row. So I'm going to continue the row. And once I get to the end of that row, so I'm doing my increase and coming all the way down. And then when I come back to here, it's a decrease again. So I work a decrease until I get up to here. And then I'm going to show you how we add that extra bead to do that increase. So I wanted to point out to you really quickly before I moved on any further. So I've just completed our increase row, which is this row here. And when you get to the end, you only have one of your outer perimeter beads. So what's great about this is once you add this last bead, like I've got here on this one, there's no moving to get into place. I'm in place and ready to do the decrease here, right here, and then work up to the top. When you get to the top of the row, you'll notice here that I've used up all of my little thread bridges, so there's not another thread bridge to go under. But I still need to put on one more bead, which is this outside color bead here. So it's really, really easy to do this part. We're just going to pick up the bead we need for our outside color, and you are going to go under the same thread bridge that you just went under to add this bead here. So I'm just going to take the needle and kind of work it under that thread bridge. Pull this thread back tight here. Work it under the bridge, pull it through, and then go up through the bead you just added. So now you can see that that builds our increase, and we are set to go. So if I mark that row out, you'll see our next one here is another increase row. So I'm going to pick up these 2 beads. So that is this and this. And remember, I don't skip a thread bridge for an increase. I go under the same thread bridge. Now make sure that you have your thread pulled tight here as you go under this thread bridge, because it's going to get, or it can get, a little loose because of the fact that we did an increase on that bead. So make sure that everything is pulled nice and tight here as you do that increase on that piece. So we're going to work these increases, like I said, until we get to this point here. Then you'll be working your decreases to finish off this side of your piece. Once you have the side complete, this is what your piece should look like. You have the center and this whole side done, and now you're ready to work this side, which is a mirror image of the first side that you did. So the easiest thing to do when you finish, go ahead and complete your thread here. Get rid of the thread and start a new piece of thread, which you will want to exit this top bead right here. And then that way you are ready to start here and work the rest of your rows just like you worked these rows. The biggest thing is pay attention to your pattern and make sure that you are starting out in the correct spot, so that way your pattern is a complete mirror image of what you have. All right, so after several hours, you will have your 2 pieces complete. This is where we are ready to now put them together, and this is where you are going to see if you got your rows worked perfectly so that it will zip together. So what I've done is I have finished off the working thread that I had, and I have added a whole new thread here. And you can see I'm coming out of this top corner bead here. This is where we are going to start to connect the two pieces together. So you want to lay them side by side just like that and line the holes up so that you can see exactly where the holes line up. Now, if it's a little wiggly and wonky from where you did your brick stitch, don't worry about that. It's fine. This will all, as the great prophet Miranda Lambert says, it'll all work out in the wash. So, basically what we are going to do is we are going to tack all of these beads here together. So, coming out of the bead I'm coming out of here on this side piece here, I'm going to lay them side by side. Make sure I'm getting it exactly centered. And then I'm going to take my needle and go down through the adjacent bead, just the one bead, on the other side. And I will pull this through. Pull it tight. Now come up through the bead right next to the one you're coming out of. Pull the thread tightly. And then come down through the adjacent bead on the other side. Pull through. And as you pull through, pull it tightly. It's a lot of flipping back and forth so that you can kind of see what you're doing. Come up through the next bead, right next to the one you're coming out of. Pull it tightly. And then go right across to the adjacent bead and go down through that bead. I flip it so that I can pull it through and I can see what I'm doing. Pull it tightly. And then come up through the bead right next to where your thread's exiting. So I'm going to go and do this until I reach these last two beads here. So once you have that connected, if I pull this away, you'll be able to see there how that's already connected on the side. But you'll notice now that we come down, that we have to do a little bit of a step down. And we need to make sure that we connect these beads and these beads. We don't want to skip over these. So I'm coming out of this bead here, and what I'm going to do is come down through this bead and then up through this bead. Again, it's one of those things that it doesn't matter how you do it as long as you don't see the thread across any beads. So I go down through, pull it tightly, and then up through this bead. Okay. Pull it all the way through. And then go through the bead directly across from it. I think I got the wrong bead. Yep, if I flip it over this way, I can see I've got the wrong bead. I need to be coming through this bead right here. Here we go. And we pull this through. Okay, and when you pull it through, make sure you don't get any thread caught up here. So now I come up through the bead right next to where my thread's coming out. Flip it around and I come through the bead right across from it. And again, you'll notice we got our little step down here. So basically if you're doing it like this and you have a border, all of your border beads need to be connected to the border beads of the other side. Now, if you don't have border beads on your pattern like I have here, it's fine. Just pay attention to the beads that you need to go through to be able to connect all of these beads. So see, I need to be coming out of this one here to connect these. So I'm going to come down through this brown bead. If I can get it here. There we go. and then up through the white bead here. And I will continue to connect these beads all the way around and then all along this side so that I have a good connection with my beads. Now, when I get down here, these beads are pointed differently. So once I get down here, I'm going to show you how to do this bottom part and to get these connected here. So now that you have all of the side connected and you're coming down here to the very bottom, you'll notice here that I've gone ahead and I've connected these last two beads. So once I connect these last two beads, I'm almost going to do a little turnaround just like I did before. I'm going to come through this one, and then this one. Another thing that you can do if you want to is you can come across and come down through this one, almost like a zigzag. So that to the point. But now once you get to that point, I go through both beads of the point. So this bead and then back through this bead again, to really secure that bottom point there. And you can do that to all these bottom beads if you want to. And so you can almost square stitch them together, just like I'm doing here. It's really your preference and how you want to do it. The bottom is going to take a majority of the beading as you work your piece. Or not as you work your piece, but as you put your scissors in and out. So I really like kind of doing this square stitch on it rather than the zigzag back and forth. And you'll see once I finish, I just come to this side. I'm going to square these off. And then I'm ready to continue to connect up this side. So let me see if I can get this open a little bit here so you can see. There we go. So you can see how that side is connected and now this side is open. So again, I'm going to work to connect all of these up top and then you're ready to put your scissors in there. So once your scissors case is completely connected and tied off, you'll know that it's made specifically for the bead-along beading scissors. So when you take them out of your pack, open up, and the first time you do it, you might want to take your fingers and just kind of open this up a little bit because it is so used to being a flat, complete piece. And you may have to just take and kind of push it down in there to get it started. There we go. Once your piece is used to, or it molds to your scissors, it'll be much easier to take them in and out of your scissors case. The more you take them in and out, the better and easier it's going to get to do it. So you can see how different colors make this piece look completely different. You can see here they're the same design, just different colors. One thing you may want to seriously consider is when you choose your colors, mix your mattes and your shinies together. It's going to make it pop much more than this one here does. You can see here that I've used all mattes on this one, but it looks really, really nice. So just be sure to think about that when you're looking at your design and trying to choose. But I hope that you enjoyed learning how to make these awesome scissors case.